next thing, we lined up. My hair was torn out, literally torn out. On one side was Gestapo lady, and the other side was a Gestapo guy. And the Gestapo lady picked up my lock and she said, "This is for my daughter's doll." And it was still blood on there, skin, that I had nothing but sores all over my head. And my mother had gold teeth, so they yanked out the teeth. They were standing there and yanking out the teeth. And the next thing, my sister started to cry, and he went over and he beat her. And then this lovely lady, she was wearing like a turban hat, and she looked like she was pregnant, but she had a baby, a live baby under her dress and her coat. And her name was Chava, and we were all assigned to the same barrack. And they took the little baby out and threw it on the asphalt and killed. And I could still hear the baby. When I talk about the baby, even now, I hear that cry. They picked me up, and that's the blanket they gave me. I guess that's the blanket they had on the boat at that time. But the fact that I should get this blanket, you know, the boat torpedoed, and a plank held me up, so I was completely wet, sopping wet. And they gave me this blanket right on that boat. What I liked about it is the flowers, it represented the Magen David, and I always called it my Jewish blanket.
But how come you kept it?
How come?
Yeah.
Because when I told my children they wanted it, they said, "Don't you give it away, that's our blanket." I said, how are you going to take 3 of you with the blanket? They said, "We'll cut it up and we'll frame it." I think I'll give it to them because eventually it'll disintegrate. All I know is everybody said, "Chava, what do you have in your hands?" And we'd say, "Do you have a piece of bread there?" And for a while, a few women would say, "Let's pry open her head, maybe there is bread." And because in situations like that, you see the best in people and you see the worst in people. And I said, "No, leave her alone." And I would say, "Chava, it's okay. Do you have bread in there or something?" And then she wouldn't open her fist. And what she had in her fist was a baby's shoe. And they took her out and they told us all to go out. And they shot her. So that was my beginning as Stuttgart. Memory, membrane. Feelings is that the most difficult thing all of us was that nobody's going to know anything about us. And I feel that when I tell what's happening, that I'm telling them because they're not alive to tell their own story. And that's why I'm so busy, my life is so busy. And I have later, as I'm 76, that I feel, how long do I have? And I feel that I have to tell everybody's story. I was speaking at the Brotherhood Synagogue, and my son came in, my daughter-in-law, and one of the questions was, how did your children feel about, and that, you know, as a second generation? I said, I don't know, you'd have to ask them, but one of them is here. And would you like to say something? And so he said, years ago, we were so proud of her. We'd come home from school and we would find all kinds of notes, but I really couldn't keep up with her. And now, certainly I can't keep up with her. Like I get from a student coming over and said, I'm going to sleep tonight. Thank you for coming to my school. My mother has been in Fallujah. My father has been in Afghanistan. And I have not slept nights. And because of you, hearing you, what you went through, I know they're going to come back okay.
Describe the feeling of seeing your mom for the last time.
It's undescribable. Undescribable. When I peel the potato to make dinner, when I see the flowers, when I see all of that. There's a prayer that we say as Jews, and it's a beautiful poem, and it says, I remember you when the wind is blowing. I remember you when the flowers are growing. I remember that. And the feeling, how I felt. I can't remember, but I remember that the void is still there, so it had to be so. I, at that time, did not think that I could hold on without my mother. And I have to tell you that I am here today because my sister, and all of us, kept ourselves to the end, the very end, the concentration camp. We were so crowded because they keep bringing more and more people in. And we all said, please remember us. I think that the civil rights movement was my greatest hours that I spent with my life. To see a mob of people turned out to taunt the bakers because they moved into an all-white, blue-collar neighborhood. And I felt I had to do something, and the only thing I knew is I baked some cookies. With another friend who was African American, we went to the bakers. And we stopped the car at distance, and for the first time in the United States, I was called everything you white trash and spit and threw things, and it reminded me of when I was my mother. We were taken out in Lithuania, because hatred knows no color or creed. It's hatred. If it can happen, let's happen to one group, it'll happen to the other group. And so at this point, I went in and I said, Sarah and Horace, I'm here, I'm Jewish. And I came because I'm a Holocaust survivor. I feel the pain they feel, and I want to do whatever I can. We did not change the people's hearts. But what we did, we changed laws. To change in the people's heart has to be in your living room and in your dining room with your children. I feel that when I prepare for Shabbat, that I'm the closest to my mother, and it's a lot easier in what she had to do. Shabbat is very important to me. The holidays is important, but that comes and goes. But Shabbat is every Friday at sunset. And to me, there's no more enjoyment for me is to have people over, especially if they're strangers, and get to know them. And not just Jewish, I invite non-Jews, and to partake and to share the food. But it's not just the food, it's the companionship, the getting to know each other. And Judaism has evolved so much that I feel when I give it a little tiny contribution is not much, but the most important is to get to know each other. I feel that the world is getting smaller and smaller. It's really shrinking, but we know less and less about each other. We have 7 grandchildren. They are my survival. They are my children, and them are my legacy. What I want to leave them is not in the material things and that I want them to leave, that they can be here on this world. We all get a certain amount of time in this world, and we have to make that mark so other people can stand on our shoulders and do it for the other people that I go after. And I think that I've always felt that way. Because I remember what my mother did, what my parents did for me, and that becomes the important thing. It's hard work, but it makes you inside.
I remember